You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast.
You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. My name is Sean Wilkie, and along with my awesome co-host, we interview the innovators in this space every week. Ivan, please get us started.
Yeah, Ivan Zach. I'm excited to introduce our guest, Douglas Brooks, who is the veteran of the veterinary industry. Douglas is the COO of ABC Intelligence and a 30-year veteran in the animal health industry. He has held a variety of commercial leadership roles with various companies and is experienced in practice acquisition as head of business development for Compassion First. Those are big practices. His experience has built significant relationships at all levels of the animal health industry, driving exponential profit growth for organizations seeking immediate results. Doug, thank you for finding the time and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, how did you transition into sort of data company from the roles that you had before, and what did that journey look like for you?
So, as you mentioned, I'm a 30-year veteran of animal health, so I've seen several different waves of the industry. My first experience in the industry was around selling flea control products when they first went into veterinary sales, and that was a huge transition of profitability for veterinarians. Did a lot of time there. Then I went into, like we mentioned, practice acquisitions, that was a big wave. And the way I saw it at the time was that data is the next big wave that's coming for veterinary medicine and to enhance veterinary medicine. That data, there's been a lot of data captured over the last few years, but the problem is the data that's captured, what are we doing with it on the other end? And so that's kind of how I transitioned into data, just seeing an opportunity for that.
So I'm going to jump a second episode in the road before Sean in the questions about AI. Now, all the data that we have that's coming from the veterinary industry, especially from PIMS, is essentially garbage in, garbage out. And then we're only able to kind of grab the snippets of something that could be normalized, which is another horrendous task. And then the whole ETL process in the industry is just horrendous. And I've dealt with this, and I've seen it in companies. I've seen it at IDEXX. I've seen it in everybody who's trying to structure the data. How the new AI tools that appeared in the last 6 to 9 months simplified or did not simplify or completely change your approach of getting the data, structuring it, and reporting creation from it?
So basically, our systems evaluate the quality of existing data and are equipped to ensure that the new incoming data is of high quality and meets the standards required for the creation of high quality data sets. You captured it perfectly, Dr. Ivan, in that garbage in, garbage out. And what we do is we harmonize and enhance that data and bring structure to unstructured data. And we also have the capability to work across multiple PIMS, which is another huge issue, particularly for some of these consolidators that have acquired multiple practices. We're working with groups that have anywhere from 5 to 10 different PIM systems. And as you well know, the data that's entered into one PIM system is completely different than how it's entered into another. So we can actually harmonize all that and enrich it and enhance it to produce those high quality data sets that then can be used. But you hit on a great point. If the data is not harmonized and not enhanced, it's useless. And what we do is we seek to unleash the power of that veterinary data through our capabilities of harmonization and enrichment.
The next obvious question is, you harmonize it, you enrich it, and what the hell do you do with it? What intelligence are you bringing to the practice?
So we have the opportunity to use some of our proprietary algorithms to help with everything from different metrics, from a opportunity to take a look at financial metrics, obviously, which is table stakes. Pretty much everybody can do that. But we take a level deeper. It's not just the financial metrics. We also can look at the diagnoses, because we can, again, Dr. Zach, you know that with all the PIMS, there's a diagnosis field that is very rarely used. Or if it's used, you could write in OA, it could be written 15 different ways. And if you type in osteoarthritis, you might not capture all the osteoarthritis that's within in a given practice. We have a capability through some of our proprietary algorithms to capture all that data and to make it all look the same. But once we do that and we create these high quality data sets, we're working with a lot of groups to create their own proprietary data networks that they can then work with manufacturers or other folks within the industry to commercialize that data. And commercializing data, and there's a lot of different forms of commercialization. It doesn't mean selling the data. What it means is I have my good handle on all of my data. Now, what can I do with that? So our goal, we see ourselves as a data broker. We harmonize and enrich the data, and we connect the people who have the data to the people who may want to pay for that data, access to that aggregated data.
Very interesting. Would it be fair to say that MatSource and BitWorks is sort of your competitors?
Yes and no. We have a couple of, so again, when we talk about the financial dashboards, yes, that's table stakes. Because we dig deeper into the data and pull other things out of it, we have the opportunity to create precision marketing campaigns. I'll give you an example. So let's take a look at all my cats that have tested high for an SDMA. They may not have been diagnosed with chronic kidney disease, but we can identify those biomarkers through the test. So we bring all those test results and things in. So we can help create precision marketing campaigns. The other thing that we also do once we have that harmonized and enriched data is we can work with, and we're working with several research institutions as well as contract research organizations and manufacturers to help with research. So those other things that we do, yes, other people do those. And there's a lot of competition out there. From a research perspective, from what I understand, is a very unique property that we bring to that data capture. So again, it all goes back to we are a data company. But as you mentioned very early in, it's garbage in and garbage out. You can't do anything with garbage. But if you can dress it up and harmonize it, it becomes a very valuable commodity to everybody, to all the industry stakeholders. So our potential customers are everybody from CROs to veterinary colleges, to manufacturers, to the large corporate groups. So again, we have a wide variety of ways we can go once we have access and work with the practices on the data. And our goal, one of the things that makes us different is that there's been a lot of money made with veterinary data over the last 5 or 10 years. What we seek to do, and not everybody, but a lot of people have profited from that data, which there's nothing wrong with that. But the practices, the people who own the data, haven't really profited from that data. So we're coming at it from an angle to work with the groups and work with the practices to help them monetize their own data rather than letting somebody else do it for them.
That makes a ton of sense. Where does this go? We're in this very interesting kind of ecosystem called veterinary medicine, which has not seen consolidation of PIMS in any really meaningful way. If we look at human health, there's a handful of major PIMS. There's a lot of data normalization. There's companies like yours and others that are jumping in to kind of help normalize, enrich the data, make it ingestible, make it usable. And I'd love to talk about that a little bit too, especially when we talk about some of the older on-prem PIMs that have a million different versions and how you guys might do that. But let's skip that for now and let's talk about the future. Like, where are we going from a data perspective in veterinary medicine? And is there any kind of key kind of movement or consolidation pieces that need to happen from a software perspective to help us actually get to a better place? Or are we're good?
No, we're definitely not good. I think we all know that the lack of interoperability and the lack of connectivity and the ability of some of these PIM systems to communicate. Again, I've talked to a lot of potential customers that are consolidators. They acquire practices, they don't change PIMs immediately. So now all of a sudden I've got 30, 40, 50 practices, you pick the number, and I've got a multitude of PIM systems that all contain great data. But how do they extract the value of that data? How do they get those different systems to communicate? Not even to communicate, but how do they get those systems to pull down the data so that you can make the data useful? And that's the role of ABC Intelligence in this space. I think long-term, there's a lot of potential long-term capabilities. Our actual company was founded by folks who came from the human medicine side that saw the opportunity to use veterinary data, potentially use veterinary data to help solve human problems, particularly human oncology problems. And, there's a lot of research and a lot of money right now going into veterinary oncology. And the whole idea of, you asked about the future, is it a potential, once we can get a good handle on the animal health data, can that data then be used to help solve some human oncological problems? So I think that's way far downstream. Right now, we're very focused on the animal health space and growing our installation base and making sure that once we get a broad database, then we can look, that's more towards the future.
So here's a question that, it might be like a business related or strategy related question, but it just popped in my head. Why are you going after the consolidators and the corporates to get their data rather than going just to the PIMS? Can you not just buy the data? And I'm sure that there's lots of red tape, but just hypothetical. Wouldn't it be easier to go just to Avamark and then, buy 12,000 or whatever they left, 10,000 customer data instead of going to all consolidators that have Avamark?
Right. Well, what we're trying to do, again, is we want to unleash the power and the ROI of that data for the veterinary practices. We are very focused on the practices. Data is a huge commodity. And again, the current environment for veterinary practices. Visits are down. They're being squeezed on all angles for margin. They're looking for additional revenue opportunities. We see the data as a huge revenue opportunity for the practices. Again, I've cut my teeth in this business for 30 years. I've got some great friends that are veterinarians, and nothing makes me happier than introducing something that can help them prepare for the future. Data, AI, algorithms, large language learning models, all those things are the future of veterinary medicine, right? They can't just keep growing by increasing prices. That's one of the huge things we see right now. The old model of how do we grow veterinary medicine? Let's increase our prices. Well, there's a certain point where we can't do that. But how can we use that data for, again, when I say commercialize the data, I mean precision marketing. How can I identify all of my pets who have a certain disease and create a bespoke marketing campaign specific to those pets that potentially can be subsidized or supported by the various manufacturers who have a lot to gain there? So again, harmonizing and enriching the data to build good quality data sets and creating a data network within a certain group of practices allows that group to leverage that data with their manufacturers. In all my 30 years of being in this business, I've been on all sides and scenes. I've worked for manufacturers that have supported these types of campaigns, but they've been very broad or very general campaigns. Now we're saying, hey, I've got a new product for whatever it is, chronic kidney disease. I want to know across a broad network of 300 practices, who are my chronic kidney patients? Who are my patients that have tested for a high SDMA that haven't been diagnosed with chronic kidney disease? And how can I create a campaign to target those specific customers? There's a lot of value in that information for the practice, but also in the manufacturer of that drug or dietary supplement or whatever it is that supports that chronic kidney disease diagnosis.
Yeah, that makes tons of sense. Let's take a step back. Tell us a little bit about ABC Intelligence. Who are you guys as a company? When was it founded? How big are you? Do you serve other industries besides veterinary medicine?
So we are a data company based out of Canada. I joined in September of 2023 to commercialize the concept. So there's been a lot of work that's been done behind the scenes for the last 3 or 4 years. The company was founded in 2019. And here's an interesting tidbit. As I mentioned earlier, the two founders came from human medicine. They had a unique idea. And one of the founders is a human oncologist, and they had the idea of how do we get this data in dogs and cats potentially be used in human medicine? They said we have to get our hands on the data. So what they did, this is a great story, they opened a specialty practice in Canada in 2019. They opened it in 2019, right at the heart of the consolidation wave. They used some of these data to make the practice extremely profitable. And what they did was they sold the practice in 2021 to focus on the data. So the company was founded. And so right now, the majority of our customers are specialty practices. So we're working with a lot of specialty practices. And as you know, a lot of the data that's out there right now comes from general practices. So we have a unique niche right now in the specialty practices. We're not limited to specialty practices. We're working with general practices and universities as well. So back to your point, ABC Intelligence, we have a IT folks. Our IT team is based in Montreal, and our COO is in Canada, and I'm the only U.S. person right now. But as we continue to grow out our database, our install base, the plan is to continue to grow and expand and create a much larger U.S. presence. But right now in the U.S., I'm a one-man show, and I'm supported by a great tech team up in Canada. So it's an exciting time for us. And, the word is slowly getting out about some of the unique things we do, particularly around research and creation of precision marketing campaigns. One of the challenges for us is that there's a lot of interplay we need from different manufacturers, different, accessing PIMS data. I see my role as I'm not a data guy. I don't have a data background. I'm more of a connector. I connect all the pieces. I bring these opportunities to practices and groups to look at different revenue streams, and then I connect them to all the people who might want to help them support those streams or help them bring the vision to fruition.
That's awesome. Well, lucky you. You get to hang around with a bunch of smart Canadians. That's a really coveted position.
Just like today on this show.
That's correct. I'm thinking the same thing. But Doug, I got one more question for you. We're slowly ticking out of time here, but my question is, you're around all these smart data people. You've been in VetMed for 30 years. Let's speed up 10 years. What does kind of project that you're working on, this company that you're working within, what do you think it looks like in 10 years? What's the vision? Where are you guys going? What big problems are you going to solve?
Well, I mean, as you know, the AI, everybody has a vision of how AI is going to be used. How are these large language models going to be used? And right now, one of the challenges and what everybody is scared of is that it's going to be could come Chat GPT. There's this big, vast amount of information, and you ask a question, and it just spits out something very generic. What we're trying to do is all of our algorithms and our AI technology is based upon actual data that comes out of the PIMS. And as we build a database and we see the information, our algorithms and our AI becomes it's live, for lack of a better term. It's live AI. I think AI will continue to have a space. Right now, it's scary. Veterinarians are scared of it, and as well they should be, because they don't know what the outcomes are going to be. So I think there's a huge opportunity from that perspective. I also think there's a huge opportunity in kind of translational research and working with, as we continue to build out our research capabilities and build our research database. Right, like I said, right now, it's interesting. A lot of the veterinary colleges we work with also have medical schools, and they're starting to kind of communicate with. Now they have combined data sets because a lot of our data is based upon a human model. So the language that we use is very consistent with some of the stuff that's in the human space that comes out of the human PIMS or the human EMR systems. So I think that's where it's going. It's going more towards more AI, more computer-assisted type of diagnosis, and also more of an interplay between the human and animal side, which would be great for animals, right? And great for obviously solve human conditions as well.
Phenomenal. And for those vets that are thinking that AI is the devil and they're scared, I think they need to buckle up and enjoy the ride because it's happening. So it's
and they just have to understand the AI that they're looking at or investigating, right? Is it coming from just a large language model, or is it coming from a very, very defined data set? And the angle, the way that we're approaching it is our AI is driven by a very defined data set of information that's existing in your PIMS. It's not a true large language model that's coming from the atmosphere somewhere. The recommendations that are coming from our type of system are coming directly from the PIMS data.
Amazing. Well, we're running out of time as we usually do. We ask 2 questions at the end. Is there a book, a TED Talk, a YouTube video, or anything that inspired you recently that you would like to share with our listeners?
My wife and I visited South Africa last year, first time. It was an amazing experience. So we experienced all things in South Africa, safaris, great food, great people, but also learned a lot about Nelson Mandela. And I know it's an old book, but I have recently last year I picked up Nelson Mandela's autobiography, A Long Walk to Freedom. And I got to tell you, that book has kind of changed my perspective on things, especially working for a startup company, right? I mean, it's hard to compare, but some of the injustices and some of the challenges that he faced in his life and still managed to remain positive and work towards justice for all. Again, I equated for my journey in a startup company is that there's just challenges every day working for a small startup. And so I'm on my own long walk to freedom.
That's awesome.
That's one of the reasons why that book resonates with me so much right now.
Sounds like a good one. Last question, Doug. Another innovator that you think we should have on the show?
I tell you guys probably know him, and he may have even been on the show before, but in the past, I worked very closely with Bruce Truman from BLT Technology. And Bruce is a wealth of information about what's going on in this space. And he's always up to date on the latest trends and the latest opportunities and the latest companies that are coming with different ideas in the space. So I would highly recommend to speak with Bruce, one of your future guests.
Thank you so much for listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. If you want to hear about our new episodes, please follow us on any social media channel. Also, you can check out our website at veterinaryinnovationpodcast.com. See you next week.